Trump was attacking Canada daily, Trudeau, Carney, Poilievre, until March 28th. Then, silence. Total blackout. Not a word since. Why? Because that morning, Canada triggered a financial warning that threatened to collapse $1.2 trillion in U.S. credit. And Trump? He blinked. Between January 23rd and March 28th, 2025, Donald Trump mentioned Canada 31 times on Truth Social. 25 of those posts included direct insults. According to Axios tracking data, he ridiculed Prime Minister Mark Carney as a globalist banker, called Pierre, Poilievre Trudeau's stunt double, and threatened 20% tariffs on Canada's grain and EV exports. But by April 1st, Trump's commentary on Canada vanished entirely. Not a tweet. Not a soundbite. Not even a jab during his Milwaukee town hall, where reporters pressed him twice on U.S. Canada tensions. According to a Bloomberg analysis published April 3rd, the silence coincided with a sudden stabilization in Canadian bond yields that had been climbing amid the rhetoric, dropping 12 basis points within 72 hours. The question isn't just why Trump went silent, but what forced him to, and why the timing aligns perfectly with a major, undisclosed financial warning issued by G7 central banks that same week. Polling data suggests Trump's attacks may have had the opposite effect of what he intended. Between March 12th and March 27th, peak period for Trump's rhetoric, Carney's favorability rose from 38% to 45% among undecided voters, according to Abacus data. David Coletto, the firm's CEO, told the Globe and Mail that the spike correlated almost exactly with American interference, pointing to what he called a boomerang effect where Canadians rallied behind Carney out of national pride. In Quebec and Ontario, two battleground provinces, Carney's approval rose 9% among moderates during that period, while Poilievre's fell by 4%, especially among older voters. Even more revealing, a March 30th Ipsos survey found that 61% of Canadians said Trump's comments made them more likely to support a candidate who would stand up to American interference. If Trump thought insults would suppress Carney's campaign, he may have unintentionally given it momentum instead. But was this political miscalculation or a trap he walked into? At 3:47 p.m. EST on March 28th, a secure diplomatic call was initiated from the White House Situation Room to Ottawa, confirmed by three sources at the U.S. State Department who spoke anonymously to Reuters. While the White House has declined comment, Carney's press secretary confirmed a confidential consultation occurred that afternoon, but declined to provide details. However, a leaked readout obtained by Bloomberg suggests the conversation was tense. Trump reportedly accused Carney of engineering anti-U.S. trade barriers through the G7, while Carney allegedly warned that continued economic harassment could undermine North American fiscal integrity at a dangerous moment for the dollar. Though unconfirmed, the Financial Times reported the following day that a coordinated G7 communique on currency market stability was abruptly canceled, hinting at deeper fault lines. Was Carney warning Trump of retaliatory economic coordination? Or was he already activating it? Pierre Poilievre, despite ideological similarities with Trump, has publicly distanced himself from Trump's persona, calling him a distraction from Canada's real issues in a February 2025 interview with CBC. Internally, however, Conservative Party insiders were alarmed by the fallout from Trump's tirades. According to leaked internal polling reviewed by the Toronto Star, Poilievre's support dropped 5 points among female suburban voters in Ontario after Trump's March 17th post calling Carney a stooge for Klaus Schwab. One strategist quoted in the same report said bluntly, "Trump's attacks are making Carney look like the adult in the room." By late March, multiple Canadian Conservative MPs reportedly reached out through informal channels asking Trump's campaign to dial it down, according to Axios. The silence that followed may have been less a retreat and more a favor, a political ceasefire designed to protect an ideological ally from unintended collateral damage. But how long can that alliance hold under pressure? Silence isn't a typical Trump tactic. He built his brand on counterpunching, not concessions. Yet after March 28th, he pivoted from direct confrontation to conspicuous restraint. According to a March 31st report from Politico, Trump's campaign staff were instructed to avoid commenting on Canada during interviews and press events. One aide described the shift as a strategic pause to let tensions cool. But others, including former NSC official John Poilievre, suggested there may have been financial motives. Trump got word that G7 allies were preparing something real, possibly coordinated debt pressure. That would have been enough to halt the rhetoric overnight. Supporting this theory, U.S. 10-year Treasury yields spiked to 4.37% on March 26th, but fell sharply after March 30th, once Trump's silence began. Financial analysts at Barclays pointed to immediate easing of geopolitical concerns regarding U.S.-Canada trade. So was the silence a strategic chess move or a tactical retreat forced by unseen economic threats? Between March 26th and March 29th, 2025, Bloomberg reported a rare private summit between finance ministers from Canada, Japan, and the European Union, held in Geneva under the guise of monetary coordination. The real subject, according to a leaked briefing note obtained by Der Spiegel, was a joint contingency framework to reduce exposure to U.S. treasuries if hostile economic rhetoric from Washington intensified. Japan holds $1.1 trillion in U.S. debt. The EU over $900 billion. And Canada, while holding a smaller $148 billion stake, is a critical intermediary for Gulf and BRICS-linked capital flows. The signal wasn't subtle. Within 48 hours, Treasury yields dipped 19 basis points, and foreign central bank liquidity swaps surged 41%, as tracked by the New York Fed. According to Mohamed El-Arian, chief economic advisor at Allianz, even a symbolic sell-off can trigger real volatility in debt markets when coordinated across allies. So was Trump's silence bought with a subtle financial ultimatum? And if so, how close did the system come to fracture? The U.S. currently services nearly $1.1 trillion in short-term notes, set to renew between May and September 2025, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Just a 0.25% yield hike translates to $27.5 billion in additional annual interest. Canada, though not a top 3 creditor, quietly manages multi-billion-dollar custodial flows through pension giants like CPP Investments and the Ontario Teachers' Pension Plan. A senior official at TD Securities told the Wall Street Journal under condition of anonymity, if Ottawa reallocated even 10% of its U.S. bond exposure toward euro-denominated debt, it would signal that Washington is no longer insulated, even from allies. Following Trump's retreat, CPP moved $1.4 billion into German bonds on April 2nd, its largest repositioning since 2020. Financial signals suggest Trump didn't back off because he wanted to. He backed off because ignoring Canada's leverage meant testing the structural limits of America's debt stability. At a time when inflation is rising and foreign ownership of treasuries is declining for a 5th consecutive quarter, according to Treasury TIC data. Publicly, Trump has remained silent. Privately, not so much. According to Reuters, a new super PAC affiliated with Trump's 2024 campaign began quietly funneling funds toward online campaigns attacking Carney's central banking record, particularly his tenure at the Bank of England. Internal documents reviewed by ProPublica show that between April 5th and April 14th, over $3.2 million was allocated to ad buys targeting Canadians aged 30 to 50. With content linking Carney to globalist monetary sabotage. Meanwhile, Carney's camp has leaned into Trump's silence, presenting it as proof of resolve. In a campaign stop in Winnipeg on April 12th, Carney stated, "We don't govern with noise. We govern with purpose." But according to former White House trade advisor Peter Navarro, Trump doesn't stay quiet unless he's loading the next round. If Carney wins, expect the restraint to end and the megaphone to come back. Calibrated, targeted, and armed with economic fire rather than insult. Even if Trump wanted to reverse course, rebuilding trust with Canadian voters may no longer be an option. A 2025 Pew Research poll found that 67% of Canadians now view Trump as a threat to global economic stability, a 15-point increase since 2020. Among U.S. voters in border states like Michigan and New York, where cross-border trade supports over 1.1 million jobs according to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, support for aggressive trade tactics against Canada dropped 21% in Q1 2025. Politically, Trump may also be boxed in. Republican senators from Great Lakes, states have lobbied for more cooperative energy and auto sector deals with Canada to offset Chinese dependence. And Wall Street is watching. After the March tariff threats, Goldman Sachs revised its North American GDP forecast down by 0.4%, citing diplomatic volatility with key trading partners. Trump's base may still support economic nationalism, but the institutions around him are signaling fatigue, and markets are already pricing in the risk. Trump's silence may look like peace, but it feels more like pause. The question isn't whether Trump will speak again, it's when and how loud. Because if Mark Carney wins the election and leans harder into a G7-led financial realignment, the next confrontation won't be over tweets or tariffs. It'll be over bond yields, supply chains, and the architecture of North American influence itself. And if Canada just showed it could quiet the loudest voice in American politics, what might it do next? But that's only the beginning. Because while Trump went silent in public, Beijing just launched a new trade deal that might force his hand again. And this time, the target isn't Canada. It's the U.S. dollar. You don't want to miss that story. Because what happens next could rewrite everything we thought we knew about who really pulls the levers of power in North America. We're glad you're enjoying this video. Please like and subscribe. Check out another video that is now on your screen.